Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel, Realtor Renee DTC. My name is Renee Forsyth. I am a local realtor here within the Denver metro market area that consists of 6 or 7 counties, depending on which ones you include. But what I wanted to cover today is a lot of times my clients will go through the exclusive right to buy or the exclusive right to list listing contract. And it can sometimes be a lot of information coming all at once. We're over 23 pages with the exclusive right to buy, contract to buy, depending on if you're purchasing or selling and different things like that. The state of Colorado, when you receive your real estate license, the very first line in the contract states that realtors they are associate brokers, and that they are allowed to practice law for the one specific purpose of selling real estate. This contract itself is really important. And so I wanted to, in my education, my drive for education and to educate the clients as well as people who are not quite clients yet. Um, I want you guys to be prepared and armed with as much information as possible. So please bookmark this, like and subscribe to my channel. This is one of many videos. I'm actually shooting it live. We'll see how this goes. I may have to record and edit in the future, but we're going to go with this live, and I'm going to attempt to share my screen, which I haven't done yet, and walk through the exclusive right to list contract for the state of Colorado for 2023. There are contract changes every single year to keep things relatively moving along at a decent pace. I'm going to go ahead and um, probably not hit every single section, but let's see if I can make this work. I don't know. I tried this earlier and it worked. So share screen. We're going to go through. Ta-da! Yay. Okay. So what we have here is what it looks like at the very top of our exclusive right to sell listing contract. I'm just going to go through everything that you notice that is in blue or has a box or anything like that. Those are all the variables. Those can all be changed as we go through the contract. So this is a legally binding contract. This form has important legal consequences, and the party should consult legal and tax or other counsel before signing. Your agent, if they don't explain to you, I'm not a lawyer. If you should ever question anything or have questions about this contract or anyone that we receive throughout this process, please do consult your attorney. That's always the best case. So as we go through the exclusive right to sell listing contract, you will notice there are 2 questions here. Is it a seller agency or a transaction brokerage? So if I am working or if your realtor is working on your behalf, they're going to say that it's a seller agency. And you'll notice that in this form itself, I'm not actually going to be clicking in. I filled in some of the boxes. I've left some of them open. So it has a date on it. It should have the date that it is created or that you're signing. So if you have a presentation with your realtor, or if you interview multiple realtors and they bring you these contracts, if you end up waiting a week or 10 days or 2 months to sign it, make sure just when you're looking at it that it has the day that you're getting ready to sign on there as that date. Just best practices, and the state wants to see that that was the day that it was created and that it was created the day that you entered into the contract. This is an agreement with the brokerage firm. It's not necessarily an agreement with that specific realtor. In the state of Colorado, each realtor holds their license, or their license is held by a brokerage. And so the agreement is between both the seller and the brokerage rather than the specific realtor. Uh, that may sometimes get missed. It's kind of a little detail unless something goes haywire. So just be aware of that. In section 2 on 2.1, the multi-person firm or the one-person firm. This is when it comes to if you are working with a realtor who is a broker, a full-fledged broker, and owns their own firm. That second box, 2.2, will be checked. Any other one, if you're working with someone like myself who has 5 years experience in the business, has no desire to actually own my own brokerage at this time. There are almost 500 agents within my brokerage. It will be a multiple person firm, and 2.1 will be checked. You'll notice at the top of this agreement, it does name my brokerage, then my name and contact information. State of Colorado definitely wants each and every client that enters into an agreement with a service provider, such as myself, to be able to get a hold of or know where to get a hold of you in multiple different ways easily. So, yeah. So under 3 is the defined terms. You'll notice that I had a little fun with the seller's name, seller be cool. The brokerage firm, again, my brokerage firm, it will match here, along with at the top, along with at the bottom. Those all be the same. It's going to have 3.4 is going to have your house details, your property details. So I reside in Arapahoe County. That's the county I chose today. You'll notice I put in 123 Main Street in Centennial. No such address actually exists. However, for today's purposes, that's what it'll be. And then in that same section there, when it is an actual address, it will also have your identified lot block description, your tax description. So all of that identifying information, just to be as specific as possible, because we want to move forward with all the correct information. So again, you want to double check all of this information as you move forward. There are different programs that make the sale of certain properties distinguishable, and one of those is an affordable housing program. If your house is within the boundaries or within the program rules, and it has been identified as an affordable house, meaning it is enrolled in one of these programs, we do need to check this box. There are certain sales requirements that need to be followed. So within my brokerage itself, we don't handle leases really. They don't want us handling leases. So any of the paragraphs that say lease, we kind of skip over the top of. 3.7 is going to talk about the listing period. All of my listing agreements are for 1 year. You'll notice here it has a start date. It does not have an end date. That's because I didn't fill it out today. I do a 1-year listing agreement for a multitude of reasons. One being the contract changes every year. I don't want to make the agreement for more than 1 year. 2, I firmly believe in you choosing your timeline, and I am just your guide in this process. So I don't want us to sign a 3-month agreement and then you decide, I don't want to list it for another 4 months. So let's talk about that timing. We'll sign the listing period. When you sign this agreement, it allows me to be your fiduciary. It allows me to advise you, and it allows me to work on your behalf. Sometimes that allows for flexibility in your schedule. If this is only a month or 2 months or 3 months and we change our mind, then we have to do an amend extend, or we have to sign another contract. And rather than avoid contract fatigue, we just make it a year. I've only had a couple of instances where clients decided to hold off long enough that we had to re-list or re-sign another listing agreement. It was again for another year, and we completed our actions within that time period. So again, I work on your timeline. I'm just your guide. So, and from my perspective, each and every realtor should do the same. Should you ever feel pressured into or out of some sort of a situation, that would be a time that you would want to seek either legal guidance or assistance from another party and possibly someone else within the brokerage. So we've got computation of deadlines. The main thing within this section is that this box right here, you will or will not have extend the deadlines to the next business day if it falls on a Saturday, Sunday, or a holiday. We oftentimes, and by oftentimes I mean 99.99% of the time, click that box, because if we go through the timeline and we randomly have a holiday on a Monday that we didn't realize, the banks aren't open, title's not there. If this box is not checked for extension, then we end up having to have an amendment to this, which is another piece of paper that states that we are extending the deadline from this date to this date because of said holiday. Whereas it could have just been a checkbox. So thank you, State of Colorado, for creating the forms to make it so that we don't have to do even more forms. So in section 4, this is our brokerage relationship. This is, where it states that you are working with a brokerage, and it is a seller's agent that is essentially assisting you, which is what I am when I sell your home. It gets into a little bit of a legal jargon, but what you want to keep in mind is that along with this contract, you will probably get as well a definitions of working relationships or a similar form talking about the different roles that may come up. Within the state of Colorado, when you hire an agent or a brokerage to sell your property, you are their client. They work for you. They're your fiduciary. I am your fiduciary. Should I have a buyer or a buyer come to me and ask me to write a contract on this, on one of my listings on your property, say, we'll have that talk as to whether you want me to move into a different sort of transaction broker relationship, or rather you would rather have me still be your fiduciary and then treat the buyer as a customer. With that, treating the buyer as a customer means I cannot advise to them, I can't advocate for them, and I will not disclose any private information from you to them that you don't want disclosed. If we moved into a transaction broker relationship, meaning both the buyer and the seller are equal relationships in my mind, we change the contract, we do an amend, there's some forms, but essentially I just become the in-between. I can no longer advise you, and I can no longer advise, and I can't advise the buyer. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain the process. A lot of times we'll sit down together and go through the contracts. We'll go through the inspection process. We'll go through negotiations and all of that as on an equal playing form. You guys, you can make your decision and they can make their decision. And if we choose to move forward, that's great. I've had this happen several times when sellers don't want to list their property, and I have a buyer that may be perfect for it. They're willing to sell off market or before it actually hits the market. We make sure all of the appropriate paperwork is in place, and then we just move through that transaction very seamlessly. I also, on my team, use a transaction manager. So they manage dates, deadlines, and so there's actually a third party involved, one of my team members, that makes it so paperwork is signed on time and that we all move forward towards the closing. So I'm going to move on down to section 5, brokerage duties. These are the duties that I mentioned that are included with the fiduciary. So in speaking that I am your fiduciary. I'm going to perform each of these tasks for you. I'm going to advise you on your best behalf. I just want to reinstate that I am not an attorney or a lawyer. So if at any time you have any further questions that go beyond, I'm going to advise you that's out of my lane. That's a little above my pay grade, and I'm going to ask you to reach out to your attorney. Some states in the United States use attorneys instead of title people. In Colorado, we are a title company, meaning the title company that we choose will, and in the state of Colorado, for the most part, the listing agent and the seller choose the title company. They're the ones that go through and do the background search. They want to make sure there's no extra liens on the property. They want to make sure there's no outstanding debt that could be transferred that we wouldn't normally know about. An example of this would be, should the seller have an unpaid tax debt that they were unaware of and the government has placed a lien on the property? Title's going to find that. They're going to question it. They're going to contact everybody involved to make sure that that gets resolved before we can actually close on the sale of the property. So title essentially makes sure that the title is transferred unencumbered. So 5.8 is one of those things, one of those questions that sometimes we come across when we're dealing with higher profile clients or customers. It's whether or not they want to disclose to disclose the people or the different offers on the table. So if we have multiple offer situation, I'm not going to disclose what those other offers are unless the sellers tell me that I can. Additionally, down there, further down in the contract, it's going to ask if I can disclose who the sellers actually are. If it's owned by an LLC, then we have to follow those rules as to whether or not we can use somebody's name, whether or not we can disclose information with regards to the property and all those sorts of things. Section 6 talks about duties to seller that were just basically that the seller's agent is going to work in good faith and loyalty and fidelity. So it sounds a lot more like a marriage contract than one would normally think, but it just means that I work for you. Compensation and brokerage firms compensation. This is a one-on-one conversation with each and every seller. There is no basic, there's no standard, this is a negotiation with every single sale and every single relationship. So it may include a broker's fee, it may include a percentage of the sale of the property, and it may include just the listing broker's commission, or it may include the listing broker and the buyer's broker. There's a lot of variation there. And that's a conversation, again, it's so variable on every single contract. It's different. So that's a conversation that you definitely want to have with your realtor. And they should be comfortable explaining what compensation is, how it's charged, how it's paid, what you get for your services. Your realtor should be able to explain their value to you. If they can't, I would suggest interviewing more than one realtor. I think it's over 70% of the time, clients go with the first agent that they speak with. And if they are not communicating clearly and concisely with you, if they're not able to convey their value proposition, then I would strongly urge you to connect with another agent and at least interview another agent. I'm always up for the job in Colorado and anywhere else in the United States, Canada, and many, many other countries. Please reach out. I'm connected. That is one of my biggest sections of my business actually is connecting agents with clients across the country and in other countries because it's so vital. Not all agents are created equal, and some work really, really hard for you, and some include a little bit less in their service menu. So, depending on what you're looking for, I always want to make the best match for you. So, give me a call. Obviously, you've seen my information on this, it's in the description. And this is your mid video reminder, like and subscribe. Not all the videos are this long, but it gives you the opportunity to view, read, and have the contract explained to you. So, take a little drink here. Section 8, limitation on third-party compensation. Again, anytime the words compensation comes up, as well as anytime there's a box, there's a blue mark, there's anything like that, these are all negotiable. These are all options that you get to check. On 9.1, it talks about the MLS. That's a multiple listing service. This is where we, as agents or realtors do an extra level of certification and ethics, which is why I use the realtor name. You have to belong to an organization and serve and do other stuff. Not everybody is a realtor. So I'm using agent, broker, and realtor interchangeably, and sometimes they're not. In my world, they kind of are. So broker's assistance with the multiple listing service, we have to belong, we have to pay a monthly fee, we have to hit different education standards to be able to list your house on the multiple listing service. Now, within the state of Colorado, there are several multiple listing services. If you wanted to buy or sell in Vail or Summit County, they have their own. If you live in Fort Collins and up there, they have one that is their own. In Denver, there's a 7-county area that includes where I live, and that is its own MLS. I also belong to the Pikes Peak MLS, which is in El Paso County in the Colorado Springs area. So depending on where your property lies, sometimes you want your agent to list it in multiple different MLSs. So just know I happen to have a listing like that right now. It's listed in two, because of where it's listed or where it lies, it's listed in 2 different MLS services. So the question here, will the property be submitted? Yes. It will not be submitted to the Property Information Exchange. That is used for commercial property mostly. And those are several $100s for each listing. If your property is not commercial, if it does not fall into those sort of guidelines, we just check will not, so that we are not obligated to pay that extra fee and enter it into that service, which really has no benefit to your property. The property address will be disclosed. We have to have permission for that. The property listing will be displayed on the internet. And those 2 things are important. There are a lot of people that, like I mentioned before, would like to sell their property off market. That means that it's not listed on the MLS. We have to have special designation within additional provisions that says, which is at the bottom of this contract, that says, client agrees to list with this brokerage, however, wishes to sell their property off market, meaning just advertised within that brokerage. So there are some changes coming with regards to who we can actually market that to. A lot of times, or up until recently, we could not market outside of our own brokerage if the seller wished to sell off market. A new recent change within the last couple of weeks has been, now we can actually market your property off market, but not in a mass text. I can't send it to all the agents in Littleton. I have to do it one-on-one specifically. So that's where having an agent who is connected, who knows other agents, who who works well with others. We are cooperative. All of those things come in play when selling your property, and to get you the best exposure and the best possible situation according to you. It's not always the highest price. Sometimes it's the quickest timeline. Whatever is important to you is what your agent should be working for, and the goal that you should be working together for. 9.2, property access. There's a box for an electronic lockbox or a manual lockbox. Unless you are in mountain or rural areas that don't get good cell service or internet service, I'm going to always check the electronic lockbox, because then we know where and who and when somebody has entered the property and exited the property. That way, if something happens during a showing, we know who's been in there, who had access, and where to go to start with to find a solution. Okay, 9.2.2, it talks about who's going to be allowed into the property. I didn't check anything here. However, most times with my clients, we have this discussion. I only want to have active licensed real estate brokers or licensed appraisers that can be on the property without a licensed agent. Sometimes there are showing assistants, broker assistants, who don't have their license, who go out and show homes for agents. That's fine. That's a part of their business model. And I have agents who go out and show homes for me on my team. However, they are licensed on my team. I always advise that someone needs to be licensed to be able to be on the property. You'll notice the next box over on that is unlicensed inspectors. Currently within the state of Colorado, inspectors are not required to be licensed. They can be members of NACHI or InterNACHI, which are their own regulatory national organizations. However, the state of Colorado currently does not require them to be licensed. So your property, again, keeping your property safe is my most important criteria when working with you. So I always make sure that inspections are attended for the entirety by a licensed agent. I also attend all of my buyers' inspections, or I'll have a licensed agent there for the entirety of the inspection. Just in case something goes wrong, something gets left on, whatever that may be, we always do that last little check. A lot of times when I'm using my buyers, they use one or two of the same inspectors over and over, and we have a good rapport. I know that they can be trusted to go throughout the property safely. When they turn on the gas to the oven, they turn it off, do all those sorts of things. So, oh man. So here we go. When we talk about broker marketing, if there is something that you don't want shown within the house, you need to let your agent know that. We need to have that included. Today's marketing program can be anything from, quite frankly, I've seen agents shoot photography in their photos with their iPhone. If you're fine with that, that's great. I do have a team that goes in, they'll shoot, depending on the property and whether or not it would look better lit at night or during the day. We'll shoot daytime photos at least, along with floor plans and a 3D tour. That's like basic package. Then a lot of times we'll do an additional video. We'll do a website. We'll even do interior or exterior, and sometimes both drone video. Today, the marketing availability and the way to sell your property is so varied that this is where an agent can set themselves apart. My background in marketing tells me that I want to have every piece. I want to cover this house from every single angle. I want to be able to tell the story of the house to somebody in another country, to somebody 7 states away. We do a lot of relocation clients within the state of Colorado. We are a vacation state. People want to move here. And as people's positions, as buyers, employment allowed them to go virtual almost 100% of the time, we have seen an influx in property sales from people from out of state who can hold their same position and live and enjoy the indoor, outdoor, beautiful environment of Colorado and the over 300 days of sunshine that we have. So I want to get the most qualified and the most likely of buyers through your house. And to do that, we do the 3D walk tour. We do the videos. We do the drone. We want people to, excuse me, really get to know your house. Sometimes we'll even do a virtual open house. So we'll go live on social media. We'll walk through your house. We'll talk about the features and then send that out to agents. Sometimes we even get as specific as sending that out to agents in areas where we know that through studying migratory patterns, getting into a whole lot of marketing, but we want to know where the people are coming from and that price point, who wants to buy your house. So we market and do all those things for you. 10.3 is rather important. I've been on the opposite end of the deal where I had a signed client and they went and signed with another client or another agent just to get a deal. And then I was due a commission because they were already signed with me. So when you meet with me, I'm always going to ask you, are you currently signed with another agent? And have you notified them, or have they notified you of a list of people that they have shown or addresses that they have shown to you? Because you could end up paying commission on two sides. So, number 11, price and terms. I have not filled out a price here on this house address because I don't know what 123 Main Street would sell for because I haven't run comps on it. It's not an actual address, but please know that when we sign this agreement, I cannot put to be determined in there. What we'll do is we'll put a price that we think would be fair to list at, and then a couple of days before we get ready to list your property, we're going to look at the market conditions. We're going to run a new set of comparables. What's recently sold, what's under contract, what would be the most appropriate listing price. And then if it's the same price, then we're going to leave it. If it's a different price, we're going to fill out an amend extend and change that price. 11.2 is the type of loans that you'll be willing to accept. If you're selling a property as is, it has a couple broken windows, it has chipped paint, it has some issues like that, and you are not wanting to do any fixes to it, we are going to make sure that the FHA and the VA boxes are not checked. Because those are federally backed loans, those last couple of conditions that I mentioned, the broken windows, the chipped paint, if you have window wells that are not covered and you don't want to buy the covers, all of those sorts of things, those are requirements that have to be met as conditions of the loan. So we need to let people know that we can only accept conventional or all cash. This is a common practice in a hot seller's market. FHA and VA loans are fantastic secure loans. And I always explain the benefits of getting those loans and getting those buyers into your home when you sell it. They're all of those options. When we close and all the paperwork is signed, the money hits your bank account the same way. So just keep that in mind. One loan does not pay off faster than the other. VA, FHA, and conventional are all backed by either private money or federal money. So They take some time for the loan to go through. They have to have an appraisal. They have to have all this other stuff. Cash loan or cash deals, the benefit that sellers see in cash deals is that it closes in 10 days. So if you're, or can close in 10 days or less. So if you are in a hurry and that's most important and you're willing to accept that, a lot of times these are great conversations to have when you get offers in. Have the conversation with your agent. Um, Earnest money, we know that that is skin in the game for the buyer. And we're always going to have right here where this dollar amount is, we're going to have probably 1 or 2% of the total purchase price required in the form of good funds transferred to or sent to or dropped off by a cashier's check to the title company. They hold that, and that's applied to the closing cost by the buyer. We are running long, and I'm going to try and go through this a little bit quicker. Inclusions and exclusions. So, whatever appliances that you are leaving, we need to have here on this line. If you are taking your refrigerator with you, we need to make sure that that is included on the exclusions line. A lot of times I put down here, you'll see washer, dryer, seller's personal property, staging, furniture. Those are the items that are not included in in the sale of a property. Those are the ones people want to take with them, right? Um, Now, if for some reason at inspection time, in lieu of fixing something or in lieu of giving cash at closing towards closing costs, um, you want to negotiate in the washer and dryer, that's an option. Or the buyers want to purchase some of your furniture and you decide to sell it, that's fine. That's a different bill of sale that will be filled out in addition to the contract to buy. This is just where you want to start. Now, here is what I ask of you to ask of your realtor. If you have high dollar fixtures, meaning a super high dollar detachable um, fireplace mantle, maybe one made out of pine beetle kill that has a beautiful blue color through it. Or if you have a light fixture, say an artichoke light or something that's several thousands of dollars, we need to make sure that that is excluded if you are taking it with you. Other words, you're going to end up paying wet move out. If you've taken that light, you're going to have pay to have one installed. So all of those little high dollar features that you may have added, we need to think about. If they are attached to the house, they are a fixture, they go with the house. That includes your drapes and your plantation shutters. So if you wish to exclude any of those sorts of things, if you are incredibly attached to your drapes, we need to include that on the exclusions because other words, it is included with the sale of the property. Water rights. If you're selling a property with either water or mineral rights, that's a whole nother conversation we need to have. But it does need to be notated on the exclusive right to sell. Any sort of title and encumbrances, that's what we are doing the title search for. If you have a lease for solar, we need to start on that early. A lot of times the solar companies are a little bit slower to respond. And we need to know if it needs to be paid off with the sale of your property or if the buyers need to be able to qualify and take over the lease. Those are all questions that need to be covered. At 14.3, we're talking about conveyance of title itself. If it is a property that's been sold within the last 5 or 10 years or so, a special warranty deed covers it. A general warranty deed goes all the way back to the start of time with your property and up to the very first day. A special warranty deed goes from the time that you bought it to present day. And that includes the background of everything prior to it. Obviously, it's had a deed transfer before. And so a lot of times title doesn't need you to check the general warranty deed. They don't need to continually always go back to the start of time. They can just add a special warranty deed and do it that way. If you are conveying the sale of your property, sometimes this happens in a divorce situation or in a family situation, and you're just conveying the deed over to someone, and a quick claim deed can do. But that's, again, if you have further questions, please consult your attorney. So here we go. Associations. If your house is located within a homeowners association, we need to know how much you pay, which there's a line here, a spot right here, and how often you pay it. We also need to know what it includes. What do you get for your HOA fee? Possession. We need to know if you need a couple of days after closing or after delivery of funds um, to move out. This is where we put it in here. If you say, I'm going to need 30 or I'm going to need 60 days to find a house once we sell this house, well, then we need to put in here that we need a post-closing occupancy for 30 or 60 days. We can only do up to 60 days because after that it becomes a lease, and that's a whole nother thing with lending and all of that jazz. Too much to get into right now, but just know that we have to note it in this contract. 18.2.1 talks about seller's property disclosure. I'm always going to ask you to fill out a seller's property disclosure. Sometimes investors feel that they've never lived in the house. They did just a fix and flip. They don't know what's wrong with the property. They don't agree to do a seller's property disclosure form. I, as a realtor, am always going to push back on that, because if you fixed something, you knew something was wrong, go ahead and put that on the seller's property disclosure. 18.2.3 is something you need to know, that when you sell your property, you need to have a carbon monoxide detector within 15 feet of every bedroom, and you need to have a smoke alarm on each floor of the house. So if you have those that just plug into the wall and you are moving out, when you move out, you cannot take those with you. They have to stay with the property. I have once had a client do that. They took everything that wasn't really nailed down. They didn't realize that they had to leave those. So the carbon monoxide detectors have to be there. The smoke detectors have to be there. The condition of the property. Whatever condition of the property is when we go under contract, it has to remain in as good or better condition when the property is conveyed. So when the buyer takes possession. If not, there's a legal ramification there. You default right to cancel if at any time you feel that your brokerage or your realtor, your agent that you're working with is not fulfilling their fiduciary responsibilities and you wish to cancel your contract, you're able to do that. However, chances are the brokerage that the contract actually holds the contract will assign another agent or ask if they can have another agent work with you to fulfill the life of the contract. We want to give you the best service, especially at Keller Williams. DTC, we want to give you the best possible experience. And so if there's some sort of a conflict that comes up and your agent is no longer able to fulfill their fiduciary responsibilities, we have managing brokers. We have other brokers that can step in place and complete your request to sell your property on your timeline. Forfeiture of payments. If we go under contract and we collect earnest money, and then for some reason we pass a deadline, we pass all the deadlines for the buyers to get out of the contract, say they don't show up to closing. We get all the way to closing and they don't show up to sign the papers. They legally don't have to sign those papers. However, the earnest money is forfeiture. It's forfeited at that time. There's a couple other reasons why it's forfeited. That's again in the weeds that we're not going to cancel or cover today. But it can either be all of that money goes to the seller, or say your listing broker has several $1,000s in marketing, like I do with my clients. I pay for all of that out of my commission. And if that commission is no longer coming, I essentially have to cover costs. So we will divide that payment or that earnest money just so that those marketing costs can be covered. Each agent is different. This is also one of those situations. Like I said before, every time there's a box, it is a conversation and a negotiation. So, cost of services for reimbursement, again, same sort of thing. Disclosure of settlement at costs. These are all, they will put, if I haven't put you to sleep already, this will put you to sleep. I want you to know that in section 24, it states we will not discriminate. I will not discriminate. We have so many rules and regulations on steering and redlining and all of those sorts of things within when we take our license. In order to hold our license, we have to know all of those rules and we agree to fulfill them. And even more so if you are a realtor, you're at a little bit higher level of ethics. So it's again put in the contract every single time. We agree to not discriminate based on any sort of gender, ethnicity, sexual orientation, any of those. Recommendation of legal and tax counsel. Again, when you sell your property, I am not the tax man, but the tax man will find you. So I'm always going to say contact your tax for counsel. So call your CPA. If you have a financial advisor that covers this area for you, call them. It may change our timeline, how we sell it, whether or not you choose to do a 1031 exchange, whether or not you choose to sell before the end of the year or after the first of the year, depending on your earnings, how long you've owned the property, all of those sorts of things. There's a lot of variables when it comes to tax and the legalities of how you handle the sale of your property. So I'm always going to refer that. In the state of Colorado, as per section 26, you always agree to go to mediation first should there be a client or an issue, a conflict, whether that be between buyer and seller or whether that be between agent and seller. We always go to mediation first. 27, 28, any sort of 27 is additional attorney fees. We never hardly ever get to that. 28 is additional provisions. If there is something odd in the request, like you don't want to sign in the yard when you sell it, or you don't want it listed on the MLS, you only want to sell off market, you are signing the agreement now, but you don't want to actually put it on the list on the MLS for another 6 months, we're going to include all this information in a paragraph form under additional provisions, just so it's all laid out there. Going through the end, physical delivery of notice. You're going to agree to, when you're at the closing table, you can choose to receive all your documents printed, or you can get it electronically, or you can get it both. How you want to be communicated with, whether you want a fax, whether you want an email. What you see here is a CTME. That's our contracts software that we use, and we send a lot of notifications about the contract itself and the process through that software. So that's what we use. If we have any modification to the terms of the contract, we want to put it in there. Meaning if for some reason we move from buyer agency or seller agency to transaction broker, we will cross that bridge when we get there. Then at the bottom, it's going to have your name. And here's the cool thing about it. It has all my information on here as well. I want to show you how this is done. When you don't actually have to do this on a smartphone or a tablet where you can sign. These are electronic signatures. When we go to closing, we'll have to have wet signatures, actual pen. Yet for this one and for any other disclosures or documents prior to the day of closing, we can do them electronically. We do so by clicking here. You can choose your font should you decide that you want a different font. I would say when you choose a font, choose the same font every single time. And then you hit save. But wait, you're not done. You have this pop-up box. It's going to say, did you really mean to say that? Do you really want to sign it? And this is your chance to accept or decline. I'm going to choose to accept it. Once I do that, once one person has signed on the contract, none of the other boxes or variables can be changed. It is essentially locked in concrete. The only other thing that can be done is the remaining person can actually sign it. Now, say you sign and you're like, wait a second, I don't want to. If you hit decline, you'll notice that signature disappears. So again, you hit signature, you hit save, and then if you're really serious about it, you hit accept. That is it. That is the exclusive right to sell. Let me see here. That's the exclusive right to list. Thanks for bearing with me. This is 51 minutes. This is a little bit longer than what it normally takes when I'm with the client, but there are a lot of questions there to cover. If you have any questions about the agreement that you're in, or if you're thinking about entering into an agreement and you would like a little bit more information about the state of Colorado's contracts, please do not hesitate to contact me directly. I would love to answer your questions. Know that if you are currently working with another agent, I cannot directly reach out to you and convey that information. I'm going to direct you to work with them. And if you choose to no longer work with them, you have to be out of that agreement before I can actually work and advise with you. All right. Thanks for watching today. I really appreciate your attention for the last 52 and a half minutes. And one more time, I'm going to say, don't forget to like and subscribe to be notified when I put more content out here. We're going to go over the buyer's contract and or the exclusive right to buy listing agreement, meaning your agreement with the agent, with me, when you decide to work with me to buy your next property. So that's coming up shortly. And then we'll have, all the documents and disclosures we're going to go over. If you are watching this and those are already posted, feel free to click around. Check out my channel. It is there for educational purposes. And have a wonderful day.